Welcome back. We are here for another fun, exciting lesson in Speak Now 2. This is lesson 12, and this is for GBS Beginner English 1 at Sun Young University. I hope you're ready and excited because we're going to talk about fun and crazy sports today. We're going to talk about how soccer is more exciting. We're going to talk about how something can be better or worse than other sports or other activities. So without further ado, let's get started and have some fun today talking about those activities that we find more or less exciting. So we start off with different sports. Now, everybody has sports that they like, or maybe you don't like sports. That's up to you. It's all up to your decision on what you find exciting. Now, what are some sports? We got baseball, boxing, hockey, cycling, tennis, fishing. There are all kinds of different sports out there. And each of them has things that you may say is like, oh, these are good to watch. Some of these are indoor, some are outdoor. Some are also seasonally available. For example, hockey. Hockey is one of those sports that during the summertime, you probably going to do this indoors. But in some parts of the world, you can play this outdoors if you're playing ice hockey. Now, there are more than one version of hockey. You have street hockey as well, which you can do at any time. But some of these activities, you do them inside versus outside. Another one that's famous for that is baseball. Some baseball stadiums are all outdoor baseball stadiums, and then you also have some that have a completely covered dome where the baseball's done inside. So this is where you can have both for these different sports. And the different sports that are there, you might like one sport, you might not like another, but that is what makes a good game. Some people like this, some people don't. And that's where you can go out and start your own version of what you like. So let's move on and talk about this conversation between Celine and Doug. Now, they're going to be talking about what they like to watch on TV. TV sports, some people really enjoy it. My father is a very big sports fan of football. I like American football as well, but watching it here in South Korea is a little bit difficult. It can be done. It's just a matter of sometimes it's expensive to do it versus being able to watch it on regular television in America. So let's listen to what Celine and Doug talk about on their television choice.
So, I just got this great new sports channel. All sports, all the time.
Cool. So, what should we watch?
Let's see. How about tennis?
Is it okay if we watch something different? Tennis is kind of boring to watch.
Sure. Golf is more interesting than tennis, don't you think?
Not really. I think golf is less interesting than tennis. I do like soccer. It's my favorite.
Mine too. But there are no soccer games today. Say, do you want to go for a walk?
All right. So in here, they're using more and less to be able to describe what's interesting and what's not interesting. And some people may say that tennis is the most exciting game out there or more exciting than soccer. All what you enjoy. Some people like it, some people don't. Here in South Korea, you even have esports that are available on most televisions where you can watch people play games like StarCraft or Kart Rider or World of Warcraft, all online with commentary. And even just regular board games like Paduk. You can watch and see them. Now, here you have the Paduk channel, but if you're looking for Paduk in English, you're looking for the game Go. It's the same idea, it's same game, same rules, just by a different name. So we listen to their discussion. We find out that sometimes people want to go out and enjoy different activities. And now we're going to listen again, and there's going to be two extra sentences that they're going to put in. Add them to the conversation to see what it does to change their conversation.
So, I just got this great new sports channel. All sports all the time.
Cool. So, what should we watch?
Let's see. How about tennis? I love tennis.
Um, is it okay if we watch something different? Tennis is kind of boring to watch.
Sure. Golf is more interesting than tennis, don't you think?
Not really. I think golf is less interesting than tennis. I do like soccer. It's my favorite.
Mine too. But
No, no,
there are no
no!
soccer games today. Say, do you want to go for a walk? I can use the exercise.
All right. So, do you want to go for a walk? Walks are nice. Walking is probably the best exercise you can do. It's free, easy, and doesn't require anything. You just put on your shoes, open your door, and take a step outside. And guess what? You're walking. So, let's go on and find out more about what they like to do and what they don't like to do. All right. So, what is more interesting? What do you like? Now, this is where when you listen to people discuss things, some people find one thing more interesting than others. I personally, I love board games, I love card games, and I like video games, but I don't like all the same things that everybody does. For example, my brother likes FPS games. FPS is a first person shooter like Overwatch or Battleground or even something like Wolfenstein 3D. Look it up. Anyway, this is something that he really loves. Me, on the other hand, I like games that require puzzles, require thinking. I don't always have the skills to play games like the FPS that my brother does. Doesn't mean that I don't play them. I played Halo for many, many years and I enjoyed it, but it's not one that I'm very good at. I prefer games where I'm strategy games or trying to figure out what's going on. The games that I play currently, I play Marvel Strike Force and Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. And these are hero collector strategy turn-based games. You may say, what's turn-based mean? Well, it means I go, you go, I go, you go. And it means that we're doing it not in real time. We're doing it turns. My turn, then your turn. My turn, that's turn-based. Real time would be something more like StarCraft. StarCraft is a real-time strategy simulator where you're having to do the battles in I move and your opponent's moving at the same time. So some things can be more exciting than others. You can go and enjoy professional sports or watch them online and watch them on television. Personally, I'm not a big fan of baseball or golf or soccer. I'm not a big fan of watching them on television. But if I was to go to the baseball stadium and watch the baseball game in person, yeah, that's great. I love doing that. I love watching the games in person. I'm not a big fan of watching them on TV. For TV, the pacing is too slow. But you may say, well, teacher, what's the difference between pacing at the stadium versus on television? Well, when you're at the stadium, you can look around and see all the other things that are happening. So I personally prefer, if I'm going to watch sports, I like watching it in person. Now we're going to move on and listen to some pronunciation. Now, there are some silent syllables. And now I mentioned a couple of them in class, especially with the fruit and vegetable section that we did last couple units back about broccoli. And that there are two ways to pronounce it. You can put it broccoli or broccoli. They are both the same. It's just which one you choose to pronounce. Some people pronounce the hidden syllables, but not everybody does. Usually people who pronounce the syllables are very accurate in what they say, but you don't have to. So listen to these words and listen to the syllables that get left out.
Page 29. Pronunciation. A. Listen and practice. Notice how some words can have silent syllables. 1,
Favorite.
2,
Generally.
3,
Frightening.
4,
Average.
5,
Interesting.
6,
Comfortable.
7,
Different.
All right. So now in these words, you've heard them say favorite. That is correct. You will sometimes hear people say favorite, and they'll actually put the extra syllable into it. Favorite. Generally. Generally. Frightening. Frightening. Average. Average. Interesting. Interesting. Comfortable. Comfortable. Different. Different. You will hear some people who will add those missing syllables, especially when you listen to people with that come from Europe. They will put the correct pronunciations in, and this is where both of them are correct. Favorite, favorite. The difference is whether or not the syllable is stressed or not. So pick one way and say it. People may say, "Ooh, that's a little bit different," but the differences are whether you're going to go through an American accent or through another one. Here's a helpful hint about accents. And now this isn't in the lesson, so let's talk about this one. Accents. Everyone has an accent in their English. Now, my accent has become a very flat American accent, kind of a Midwest accent. If I spend a lot of time talking to my relatives and friends from back home in Texas, you might hear a little bit more of a Texas style talk about different things. It's not a big difference, but it can be really, really noticeable, especially if I talk with people from back home for a long time. But you can also change your accent to be what you want. When I was first working here in Korea, the guy sitting next to me was from Ireland, and everything I was saying just became a little bit more Irish. It just became a little bit more relaxed, and I stressed my vowels a little bit more. It wasn't I was trying to make fun of the man. It was just I liked the way that he said things, and so my ear heard it, and I imitated what the man was saying, and it just became natural. Your accent can be different, and when you take on a different accent, you take on their pronunciations. So find someone, it can be anyone that you want, an actor, movie star, music singer, find their accent, listen to it, and practice it. Make that accent yours. So it's perfectly fine. My friend Senya, I've been friends with her for, geez, a long time now. But it's very strange when I listen to her speak English, is that she was born in Korea, she grew up and learned English in Canada, and she lived in England. So when I listen to her accent, it's a combination of British English and Canadian English. It sounds a little strange, but it's her accent. So this is where find the way you say it and stick with it, but always stick with it. All right, so then when you have the different sports, what is your favorite? You don't have to follow these sentences and find the hidden syllables, but find out what is the things that you like. All right, now, speaking with confidence, discuss some ideas. Talk about it with your mom, your dad, somebody else, even just have your own internal dialogue where you think about it. Which is scarier, bungee jumping or parachuting? Which sport do you think is more exciting, baseball or soccer? What do you think is more dangerous, rock climbing or scuba diving? Now, all of these activities, both of them can be dangerous. Both of them can be exciting. You just have to decide for you which one is more. All right, now we're gonna move on. Let's talk about the workbook that goes with this unit. So let's go through that. All right, first off, match the sport on the left with their definitions on the right. For example, a sport with fighting to make other person fall over. That'd be, gee, wow. That could be a lot of different sports. The fighting sport. This describes judo. This describes taekwondo, boxing, sumo. It requires many different fighting sports, but on this list, the only one that's there is boxing. And it's not necessarily important to make the person fall over, but to get the person uh, to win, you have to be the person who does the best job. You have to land enough hits. If it's a real boxing match, you get points for every time you score a hit, versus if you knock the person out. Knocking the person out or knocking them down, it can end the match and you win that way. But there's more than one way to win. So take a look, try to match what the sport and how they are described. Then think about the sports from part one and put them into this little dialogue. And remember, these are your personal answers. So everyone will have slightly different answers. I think that baseball is more difficult to play than tennis. Maybe. Or I think bowling is really, really difficult. Some sports are easier to learn than others. And then again, you may have skill to learn one over the others. All right. Now, the director of sports, we're going to listen to a letter. Now, this is a letter and not an email. When you look at a letter, one of the things that you'll notice is that there's the address in the top corner. This is a correct way to format a letter. You send a letter with the address of where you're sending it in the top corner, and usually a return address in the bottom underneath your signature. But there's no return address, but that's okay. So this is Director of Sports. Victoria Park, Director of Sports, Redford College, September 12th, 2013. Dear Miss Park. Okay, real quick side note. It says Miss Park. What that means is that this is an unmarried woman. We'll talk more about that after I finish this, but Miss Park means that she is an unmarried woman. I'll talk more about that when we finish. I am writing this letter as president of the Student Sports Committee. We are asking you to replace bowling with volleyball as one of the sports choices. We think that volleyball is a much more active. It also burns more calories. Players get in much better shape from volleyball. In addition, volleyball is cheaper because we don't have to go to the bowling alley. We can play in the gym, and other students will come watch because volleyball is much more interesting than bowling. We can charge for tickets to the big games. That will provide us money for uniforms and equipment. I hope you will think about this idea. We think volleyball is a much better choice. Sincerely, Lisa Chen. Now, this is subjective, whether you find volleyball or bowling more important, that's up to you. It's subjective. Subjective means it's all up to you. Now, let me come back to Miss Parker. Miss and Mrs. are polite ways to address a woman when you're using their family name. So Miss Parker or Mrs. Parker. The difference, MS means that they're unmarried. With Lisa Chen using that, she knows that Miss Parker probably in person and does know that she is not married. If you don't know, Mrs. Parker would be a more appropriate way to do it. MRS means that the woman is probably married. Now, you can use similar things when you talk about a man. You use MR, Mr. Betts. If you were to address me, you could probably address me as Professor Betts or Mr. Betts. But when you say Mr. Betts, I'm probably looking for my father. Where's my dad? He's probably somewhere around here, but not likely. But Mr. is a way to do that. Now, there is a way in British English to address people who are unmarried men. And if any of you are fans of Batman, you hear it all the time. And that when Alfred is Bruce Wayne's butler, but he always addresses him as Master Wayne, not Mr. Wayne. Mr. Wayne is Bruce's father. Mr. Wayne was married. Master Wayne, he always calls him Master Bruce or Master Wayne. He always calls him that because he's an unmarried man. And this is a very British way of addressing someone. It is accurate, it's correct, and my aunt used to address me and my brother as Master Betts for fun when we were kids. And so it's a good way to keep that up. So there is a way. Master and Miss refers to an unmarried person. Mr. or Mrs. refers to someone who's married, usually. All right, so put the events in order to tell me if they're true or false. What is true or false for their little sports message that she is sending. All right, the last part for today. How does a letter writer compare volleyball to bowling? She uses a lot of opinion in this one. And you know it's an opinion because this is what she believes. This is not necessarily based on fact. This is what she believes. Look through that writing because you'll find a lot of her opinion. Now, I want you to imagine in part 2, write a letter to a gym, someplace that you're going to go exercise, and ask them to add your favorite type of exercise. My personal favorite type of exercise is rowing. I love to row. I think it's a very good activity. It works your legs, your back, your shoulders. It works everything. But there's not many places that have actual rowing machines. I've not found one here in Korea. I found the rowing machine, but I've not found them at a gym. So that would be my favorite exercise. I would write a letter to a gym. Hey, would you mind getting a rowing machine so that I can come and exercise on it? But whether they get one or not, no, that's up to them. All right. Well, today we have talked about things that you like more or less. We've talked about sports and a little bit about missing syllables. So have a good time. Enjoy your week, and I will see you in class very soon. Have a great time. Bye.